Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Reign Season 2, Episode 12, Banished. And a lot of people did not like this episode. I know there were quite a few people that did not really like this episode. And I really can't see why. I mean, a lot of people that review Reign, for example, this girl I watch, Faith, she did not like this episode. And I don't see why. I mean, I love this episode. I'm gonna be honest. I thought this was probably the best episode of the season. So many things happened in this episode, and I loved it. Now, there are a couple things I want to talk about in this episode that a lot of people don't like. And let's just get to it. Overall, I thought this was a great episode, and let's just get into it. So Francis finds Mary on the balcony, and he says it's been 2 days since he's seen her. She says she saw him sleeping with Lola the night she returned. She says she understands it was the baby, but it still hurts her, and he reaches for her, she flinches. She says she can't bear to be touched, and the sound of a man breathing makes her ill. And she asks how he's been handling giving out Narcisse's land. He says everyone wants some. She says she has spare land if he can't meet all the needs. And you can tell that it's still very awkward between them. It's very awkward between them. They're still not really talking to each other. And it doesn't seem like anything really is getting better from the week before. It really doesn't seem like anything's better or anything, which is sad, but that's what it seems like. That really nothing is getting better. So Bash comes back to Kenna and says Francis offered him lands and a title, and she's thrilled and starts to undress him. And then we see Diane, his mother, who a lot of people had a lot of problems with, and I personally really liked her character. I mean, she really is the mother that wants to be there, and she's not like Catherine. He formally presents her to Kenna. She asks if she's there for the festival. Diane says Bash gave her some of the lands he got from Francis. Kenna asks if his mother's estate came from a title, and Diane says if Bash cared about titles, he wouldn't have turned down the duchy for a barony. And Kenna's shocked. She could have been a duchess, and I know a lot of people are not really liking Kenna these days, but I like her character. I really don't have a problem with her. And Catherine, going to Catherine, she stares at her makeup jewelry and says that there's distractions from her corrupt flesh. Henry tells her she's not corrupt enough lately. She tells the twins to run and play while she talks to Henry and says not to scare anyone to death. She asks why they're angry anymore. Henry says he gave them respect and love. She says it's how it is in a perfect world. He says she should choose to be part of their world. She says she's not sure if it's real. And I like seeing her question this. I like that this episode, basically they concluded this storyline this episode. I'm happy they did, because if they would have dragged it on for too long, it would have gotten very boring. The storyline is very interesting, because it's all about how Catherine's reacting to the whole Claude thing and all of that. That's all what this is, her reacting to that stuff, and it's a good storyline, but I'm happy that they closed in this episode, because it was just getting a little bit too weird. So Claude chases down Bash. She asks what she's after. She says her mother thinks she killed the twins. So Catherine was trying to poison her, and Bash says Kenna was right in her suspicions. She asks him to investigate the death of the twins, and he asks her to tell him everything she knows. And Narcisse is giving Francis advice, and yes, Narcisse is back, which I'm happy about, because we did not get any Narcisse last week, which kind of disappointed me. So I was happy to see Narcisse back. Also, the whole thing now that we know that Catherine's sort of crazy, the whole thing with her, Claude being the one to poison the twins might not actually be real. The whole thing with, Claude killing the twins, it might not actually be real. There might have been someone else who did it, and, Catherine's just, like, hallucinating or whatever. I don't know, but if she really is as crazy as they're making her out to be, then I wouldn't really believe anything she says, because I just think she's very crazy right now. So basically, Narcisse is giving Francis advice on how to give away his lands. Mary comes in and asks what crimes he confessed to. He says embezzling, and she says that it was a good choice because blackmail would result in him losing his head. She sends him out, asks if the best parcels are going to Narcisse's allies, and she says it was wise. He also wants to give some lands back to Protestants, and she says he should start with Condi. He says why, that he should start with Louis, and he says why not. Mary and Francis are told that a prisoner said Castleroy funded the attack on the castle, and Mary says she must tell her if the radicals were in her household or if there's any traceable link, and Leith finds Greer searching, and obviously Mary's upset with that because that's Greer's husband, so she's very concerned about what's going to happen there. So Leith finds Greer searching her chamber, and she says they were tricked by the radicals. She says Castleroy thought he was funding his school, and Leith says Mary can't save her no matter what. She asks what she can do. He tells her to think hard, and she says there may be a ledger in the counting house. She begs him to help her, and I like seeing this. I like seeing that, she's realizing that Mary really can't help her. Mary has so many duties as the queen, and she can't really do it all, and yet she wants to. That's the thing that I like about Mary, is that she always tries to save everyone, but it's not exactly working, which I think I like seeing that. So Catherine was into Diane and says it was daring of her to return. Catherine says she gained a daughter-in-law even though she's the one who replaced her in Henry's bed. Diane tells him that if looks could kill, Claude would be murdering her mother. She walks off, kisses Claude, who shows off her kindness to Diane. You can see that everyone likes Diane more, that, she's more respected by everyone. And I thought she was a very interesting character because, we're so used to seeing Claude despise her mother, despise Catherine, wanting nothing to do with her. So it was cool to see Claude actually be nice to someone for once, which we never see. And I like seeing that. It was something cool that they play with. So Henry's there, says that Diane's looking too thin and old, and says she was a regrettable mistake. The twins are there, and she asks Henry if they're real. And Catherine tells Henry that Bash is investigating the death of the twins. Claude asks how she'd be able to sneak in to get the twins when royal babies are never alone. And then Louis shows up at the castle, and Mary greets him. And she asks if he's been pleased, but he says he can't take the lands. And just, again, the chemistry between Louis and Mary in this episode, it's there, and I really want them to get to that point where they get closer, and they have another hand touch thing in this episode, which I'll get to, but I like that they're going slow with this. I do, because if they were to rush it, it wouldn't work. So I like they're going slow with it because I know by the end of the season they're probably going to be together, but they're going slow because they have a lot of episodes to go, and they need to take some time with this. So they want to take some time, go ahead. I like where they are right now. And I've really been liking where they're putting Mary and Louis. I really do want them together. He says other Protestants were hurt more. He says he can't listen to her defend Francis anymore. Francis sees them talking and sees her touch Louis's arm after she told him she can't bear to be touched or be touched by a man. So Francis feels very betrayed and he looks furious. And obviously, I knew when she said that she didn't want to be touched, that she only meant that she doesn't want to be touched by Francis. And that's because she likes Louis now. She doesn't want anything to do with Francis, really. So I like seeing Francis have this jealousy in him. Because he's realizing that, yeah, this is all happening because of him for the most part. That's why this is happening, is because she's realizing that she wants nothing to do with him and she wants to be with Louis. So Francis looks furious, storms off one way as Louis marches off another way. Greer and Leith are at the counting house. She reads through the account books and asks the counting man for her husband's personal ledger. The man says if ties between Castleroy and the Protestant exist, it benefits neither of them. He says he's hidden it and that will help them both. He asks her to sign the papers, completely Castleroy's deeding 51% of the company to him since it has to be controlled by a man. And she signs but says that if they're implicated, she'll take him down with her. So Bash found the twins' former nanny, who married quite well to a noble, in fact. They sit Lady Yvonne down to tea, and they ask her what happened. And she says she went to use the privy for just a moment. She went to use, the bathroom. And when she came back, they were both dead. And they asked her if she saw the flowers being removed by the doctor from their mouths. She said yes, and they know she was lying because no one but Catherine, the killer, and the doctor knew about it. So she admits that Henry wouldn't leave her alone, says he forced her to his room that night and made her smoke something Turkish. She says she fell asleep, lost track of time. She says hours had gone by. The windows were open and it was freezing. She says the babies weren't breathing and she was terrified. She says she saw Claude's dress, put the flowers in their mouths because she knew Claude wouldn't be punished. And basically she framed her. She framed her daughter, it seemed. And Claude and Bash realized that Henry covered for Yvonne so no one would know he had her out of the nursery and he married her off as well. And then Catherine covered up for Claude, and Catherine is with Henry and the girls, and she talks about perhaps wrongly thinking that Claude killed them. Because now she's thinking maybe Claude didn't kill them, and Henry tells them that Frances and Claude don't need her, but he and the girls do, and he kisses her. She runs off to play with the girls. She runs out into the snow. She runs into the snowy woods, chasing the girls with Henry running behind them, and it's a really well done scene. Then we get to probably one of the highlights of the episode, definitely. Men are sparring with sticks in the Great Hall where Francis approaches Louis. He asks if he turned down his offer of land because he doesn't like the way he rules. Francis says Mary is protecting Louis from him, and then Louis says neither of them were there to protect Mary. Francis tells him to be careful what he says, and Louis asks him to try the quarterstaff against him to work out their differences. And in the snow, Catherine says she's getting cold. And by the way, when he said that, I'm like, okay, there's going to be an intense fight, and I'm looking forward to it. Because this is really the love triangle we have going on right now. It's Louis and Francis and Mary, and I like this. I like this love triangle. And in some ways, it's really not a love triangle, because Mary's not choosing between the two of them. She has made her choice. She wants nothing to do with Francis. She just married him because she's the queen. She can't get out of it. That's why she's married. If she could, she'd get a divorce. That's just how it is. So in the snow, Catherine says she's getting cold. Henry sends the girls back inside, kisses her. He touches her, says he can warm her up. He says he knows what she wants. The two of them together forever. She kisses him, and he says what he used to when they were new lovers, that they're almost home. We see she's sitting alone on a bench in the snowy park, freezing. And Francis and Louis each take up a wooden staff, and they start sparring roughly. And basically, what that scene is supposed to show, by the way, is that Catherine is done seeing these visions of Henry. She's done with what's going on there. And she does not want this to happen anymore. So she's really sick of it, and I like seeing that because, Catherine and Henry did not like each other. The reason why Catherine was seeing these, and everyone's saying Catherine and Henry did not like each other, it does not make sense to the story why this happened. It does not make sense at all, and I can see that, but I think what that was trying to show was it was just Catherine grieving over everything that was going on, and seeing Henry was sort of like a coping mechanism for her. That's really what was going on there. Because she's recalling the time when they actually did like each other. There was a time when he wasn't a bastard, when they did like each other, but then he became a dick for the most part. So Francis and Louis each take up a wooden staff, and they start sparring roughly. Louis strikes Francis' cheek, drawing blood. Then Francis came back at him, hits him in the ribs hard. And Kenna wonders what's between them, then says it's Mary. Francis kicks and breaks Louis' staff, and then before they come to fisticuffs, Mary calls for a stop. She does not want Louis to, obviously, she can tell that, she doesn't know who's going to win, but Mary wants to stop it. The room is abuzz. Each man leaves in a huff in a different direction, and eventually this makes me think they're going to finish this fight. I mean, they're going to finish this fight. They have this huge conflict going on, and I definitely feel like at some point this season, there's going to be another fight between them, and that was such a tense scene. Am I upset that Mary broke it up? No, because I think that's just supposed to be anticipating us for more of what's going to happen. Sebastian finds Catherine in the snow, says she's going to freeze to death. He picks her up, and she asks why he's helping her. He says a good question. He tells Catherine they have Yvonne in the dungeon, and how her neglect killed her twin daughters. Catherine says who will punish her for treating Claude so badly. She says her terrible marriage hurt their children. She says he hurt her mother too, and Bash says his mother knew what she was getting into. Catherine says not really. She says that Henry promised to be faithful to her after they were done producing heirs, and she says he cheated on Diane and kept sleeping with her too, and that's why he gave her all those gifts. So Bash says he hopes this news brought her some peace. Catherine says he just saved the life of his mother's worst enemy, and she feels betrayed for the most part, and I think that's why she's not seeing Henry anymore, because she's realizing, hey, Henry's not a good guy. Why am I seeing visions of him if Diane's back in the picture? She shouldn't see these visions of him anymore, which I like seeing. So Mary cleans the cut in Francis' face. He tells her he shouldn't have let Louis provoke him, but he did, and says, and I like this because it's showing that Francis is jealous of Louis, and it's setting up for what's to come. He says he thinks Louis has feelings for her, and now everyone knows. She says she would never encourage another when she can't stand the touch of any man, even your husband. And of course she's lying to his face. She clearly has feelings for Louis. Lying to his face. Francis says she will heal and says this notion of separate lives will not work. He says the threat to their marriage and their role. He says there can be no doubt when she produces an heir to the paternity of that child. He says wars are started over less, reminds her that his mother was almost beheaded. He says it's not fair, but that's the way things are. She says it sounds like he's a man trying to tighten his grip on a woman, and says she doesn't want to hear more. She walks out with obviously she's disgusted at what he's saying to her, because basically he's telling her, oh, you can't be with anyone else under my control. I control your life, basically. And she doesn't want to hear this bullshit. She wants to have her own life, and I like that about Mary. I've always loved that about Mary. I love how independent she is. I love how Mary doesn't want to, have people control her. She wants to do her own thing, and I love that about Mary. And I love that scene definitely because of that. But I do have to say, this episode kind of made me hate Francis. I'm going to be honest. I really did. I already didn't really like him. But this episode, I pretty much hate him after this episode. Because I think that he's just going too far. Really, he is. He is turning into more and more, he's turning to Henry more and more every single episode. And, especially after hearing Catherine's story, what he's doing with Lola right now is kind of what Henry did to Catherine with Diane. And I think it's kind of interesting. But at the same time, Mary wants nothing to do with him. So Catherine gets out of the bath and finds Henry there. He says he forgot what Cole could do to the living. She confronts him at the nanny that neglected the twins to death while she was in his bed. Catherine says Henry's a lie. She brought there to ease her conscience, and I like that she said this because that's why he's there. The twins are there and says they have to find peace away from her, and soon she will be with them away from this place. She touches them and says goodbye. They walk away as they fade. Henry tells her not to break up their family. She freaks out on him, tells him he's dust and bile and to be gone, and then he is. So he's gone. That whole storyline's over, and I'm happy it is because I thought they closed it out well. I thought they closed that storyline out, relatively well. I enjoyed the way that storyline went overall, and I thought that was a very good conclusion to that storyline. I definitely really enjoyed that. And basically, I really liked that. As I said, I thought that was very good. So Bash finds Diane waiting for him. She asks what's wrong, and he reminds her that she always said she and he were Henry's real family. He asks her about the chapel that Henry built for her and her bashing the windows out. And he says the chapel was built for him, and he kept a piece of the glass. Remembers that it was 2 days before the twins' death. He asks if she was angry they slept with the queen to father the twins or to punish Henry for sleeping with the nanny. And she admits she opened the window in the twins' nursery. She says he forgives Kenna. He forgave Kenna. He says she was young, but then she says that Kenna told Catherine that she was in Rome trying to get him legitimized, and Bash says the land he gave her is no longer hers and will keep her secret if she leaves and never comes back. He says if what she said about Kenna is true, neither of them deserve neither of them deserve his forgiveness. So I like that he said that because Diane, I'm not saying she's a good person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying she's an interesting character, and I like seeing her character because she's different from Catherine. Diane's not a good person. She's not. She's basically ruined Catherine's life for the most part. She's been Catherine's mortal enemy, and now she's telling Kenna lies, and Kenna believes her and everything. And I like that Bash is saying that he's not going to forgive either of them. So Mary asks Lola to do something for her without question. Lola goes to see Louis and says Mary wants them to make a match. Lola says that Mary's trying to protect her reputation, that he casts aspirations on his behavior. She says she doesn't care if he offers his heart. She says she wants to protect Mary. He likes her smug and says they can give it a go. Castro's ledger is brought into the hall. It's claimed to know that he's guilty of conspiring with the Protestants. Greer is shocked that she's in the dungeon, and that was definitely very big what was going on there. So Mary comes to see her, and Greer says she lied to her. That's a treason, but says Castleroy did nothing wrong. Mary says the ledger proves their guilt in the eyes of the church, but not quite enough in the eyes of the king. Mary says she gets to keep her life, but that's all. She tells Greer that she'll be stripped of her titles, lands, and everything. Greer asks how she'll live, and Mary says she, Kenna, and Lola can't worry about that now, but she hugs her tightly before she's taken out to a weighing carriage. And it kind of seems like from here, things are just going to go a little bit downhill for Greer, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen. I definitely feel like things are going to get very dark for her, and she's not really going to have a very good life, and there's going to be things that are just going on that she can't control, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle that, because that could be very interesting to see, and I definitely want to see how they handle that, because I think it would be very cool. So Kenna comes to their rooms, and Bash says he's tired of waiting liars to tell him the truth. And she says it's awful about Greer. He asks if she told Catherine about his mother's trying to get him legitimized. And she says she was scared. He asks if she was scared of losing the king, her money, her position. She says all of those and says she loved Henry before he went mad. She says he doesn't know what it's like to be a woman in this world, to own nothing and control nothing. And he says she never told him, and she says that he agreed to a clean start. He says he couldn't have been killed for her petty interests. He storms out, and he's obviously pretty upset at what she's done. I mean, he's obviously really upset at Diane. He's upset at Kenna as well. He's upset at really both of them. I do like Diana's point, though, that she was with Henry before he went mad. To her credit, I do understand that. So Frances comes to ask Mary if she's alright about Greer. She says she's not and feels very lonely and wonders if she was wrong to bring her ladies here. And I like she's questioning that because, I mean, I've always kind of questioned that. I mean, her ladies in waiting, I've always been like, well, they really don't have it that well. The only one that really has it really well is Kenna. Kenna has a very good marriage with Bash. I mean, not at this moment, but at least she has someone. Lola has Frances, yes, she does, but she has a child, and Greer, her life is going to shit for the most part. So, basically, she says he was right saying that appearances matter. He tells her that she doesn't have to be alone and asks to stay with her to watch over while she sleeps. She says she'd like that. Diane packs her bag. She's planning on leaving. And Catherine, this scene was just awesome. The final scene, I was not expecting this. This was awesome. Catherine clubs her in the head with a fireplace poker. She says she was slow to put together, but not that Bash took away her estate, she was thinking. She says that it's never occurred to her that a mother would never do that to another mother's child. Diane asks how many mother's children she's killed. Catherine hits her again with the poker and chokes her. Says this is for killing her babies and taking her husband and turning her daughter against her. And Diane chokes out that she did it all for Henry. Catherine says Henry did it all for Henry too. Chokes her to death, telling her that Henry's all hers now and Diane is dead. But I understand why Diane is dead, because they had to kill her. Because, you know, Diane was naive. She didn't understand what was really going on. She didn't see really the problem of all this. The problem of all this is that Henry was crazy and she made Catherine's life basically a living hell. Overall, guys, I loved this episode, but there are a few things I definitely want to talk about. First of all, Frances and Louis. I definitely like this tension between them. And you guys could call it a love triangle. For me, I'm just going to call it Francis is a douchebag, because he really is. I mean, Francis thinks he can do all this stuff to Mary. He doesn't want her to move on. I can understand that. I mean, I can kind of understand what that's going on there. But I mean, Francis could always choose he could always choose someone else for his queen. He always could. And Mary clearly has all responsibility being the queen. I kind of feel like the season's going to end with Mary not being the queen. I know that'd be historically inaccurate, but Reigns done that a lot. So if they want to do that, I think it could actually be very interesting if they do that. Louis and Mary need to get together, like, right now. I really want these two to get together. At least kiss. I just really want something to happen between them. But I like that they're taking it slow at the same time. I like they're taking it slow because as much as I want them together, I don't want them to rush it. I don't want them to rush it. I don't want it to force it down their throats. Oh my god, you gotta support Mary and Louis. I don't want it to be like that. I want them to go slow with it and do what they need to do with that. If they want to go slow with it, then be my guest. I'm fine with that. Greer, as I said, I feel like Greer's life, it's about to get really bad for Greer. I like to focus on Catherine this episode because we need to have more focus on Catherine. We need to focus more on, what was going on with her and her seeing Henry. I like that whole storyline is over. How do you feel about Diane being killed? How is Bash going to react to this? I think Bash is honestly going to feel relieved because Diane was ruining his marriage with Kenna. To his credit, though, he never really had a perfect marriage with Kenna. I mean, it wasn't like a great marriage or anything. I think they have a good marriage, but I think that Kenna can sometimes be kind of selfish and sometimes only thinks of herself and doesn't really think of Bash, but Diane kind of screwed things up for them, and I'm wondering if they can fix it before anything else happens. Is Mary gonna? I kind of have this prediction that Mary's gonna send Kenna, Greer, and Lola somewhere else because she doesn't feel they're safe anymore. Kenna, I feel, is safe. I mean, she's not in a good place with Bash, but she's safe. Lola's safe. It's Greer that I'm concerned about. Greer, I'm very concerned about. And honestly, I feel like they're gonna kill off Greer. I really do. I heard there's a major death coming. It's definitely not Diane. Diane is not a major character. If they kill anyone in the show, it's gonna be Greer. I really see them killing off Greer, and that's just because the direction she's heading, I don't see it going well for her. I really don't. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, so this was probably the best episode of the season. I really enjoyed it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for a movie review. Which I'm telling you guys, it's going to be a rant because it's going to be for a movie that I don't want to see. But I have to watch it anyway because that's just how I do things. That's because I love you guys. I love reviewing these kind of movies. And yeah, I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.